and I would watch John Cena sit in the talent viewing area on live events, and he would be sitting in a chair in front of the TV monitor, and he would watch every match. And I would see young guys come up on the card, and I would tell them, "Hey, there's John Cena. Go over there and ask him how'd you get here? What did you see in my match?" And they would go, "Oh, I don't want to bother him." Steve, if I could tell you anything, don't ever get the attitude of, "Well, I just don't want to bother." Dude.
Rewind, recap, relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary force in wrestling interview.
Our first guests have been refereeing for nearly 10 years now and has been with some great promotions like Ring of Honor, House of Glory, and WrestlePro, where he's the senior official. Please welcome Stephen Dumeng.
Thank you so much. I mean, wow, quite the intro. Well done. I appreciate
Yes.
that. I mean, it's going to pale in comparison to who else is here. But in any case, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much for having me here. I can't say enough how much I love being a part of the wrestling industry and being a part of this here. I honestly, I haven't really done very many interviews in general or things of this nature. So it's really cool to be a part of this. And my journey in pro wrestling has been so positive, and to have something of this magnitude is always adding to that. So very, very much happy to be here.
That's so cool to hear. I love the enthusiasm, really. I can't wait to jump into your career. And you mentioned a legend with us as well, our next guest, member of one of the most legendary families in pro wrestling overall, with over 40 years under his belt. And most of that, or some of that time, refereeing for WWE with some of the biggest matches we've seen in the history. Please welcome Scott Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Jonah. I appreciate it. And I too, like Stephen, I appreciate the opportunity. When I was contacted about doing this and about the concept of it all, of the veteran and the up and comer, man, what a great concept. And I feel like it's something that wrestling fans would love to hear about. And so really, really thankful to be a part of it, and thankful that Stephen's on the other end with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Thank you both for saying that, really, about the concept overall. Though it's like been a really fun journey. This is episode 70 that we're doing right now. So it's made some really cool connections along the way for like kind of like bridging that gap in the industry. So really, really happy to have you both here. I always like to start them at the beginning. And Stephen, I'll throw it to you first to really just hear how your journey into pro wrestling got started.
Oh, right on. So I have to thank my big brother, who also is a wrestler. So this is another connection. I heard someone here might have some brothers in pro wrestling. So my brother, Colossal Mike Law, he's been on the independent circuit for about 20 years. In that 20 years, he's been involved with, he's done matches on AEW, Ring of Honor, MLW. He's a current trainer at the Fallout Shelter, which is also where I do training for pro wrestling officiating. Good shout out to the Fallout Shelter in New York, near and dear.
Yes.
But yes, my brother is the reason why I'm involved with pro wrestling. He got involved as a fan, and we really just used that as a way to bond. And it helped us grow as individuals, watching our favorite performers growing up in the 90s, the Attitude Era, which was so epic. I got to live through that and see it all happen. So arguably the best time in wrestling, even though I feel today's wrestling is certainly generated arguably even more interest, in my opinion, but a very good time in wrestling nonetheless to be a part of, to grow up and see. But in any case, that was how I got involved. He trained in a place called Arena, Puerto Rico, where he trained. It's crazy. I ended up meeting people like Low Key, Homicide, Amazing Red, who I ended up officiating matches in the future when I was about 6 or 7 years old or so. And Mike is, I think we have like, gosh, ages become so arbitrary as you get older, but trying to think, I think we're like 8 years apart or so. So he had began training in Arena, Puerto Rico. and then segued from there into the Doghouse, the legendary Doghouse, and in New York. And that's how I got involved. He brought me there. He showed me matches. He showed me how to run the ropes, bump, learn the 101 stuff, so to speak. And my actual foray into refereeing itself wasn't until years later, also by way of my brother. Again, my brother is the one, Mike Law. He's the one to blame for all this. I tease, of course. He basically on my first show that I debuted in 2011 at FWE, the very first night, the referees that were scheduled to appear weren't there. So we were about 20 minutes away from bell time, and I initially came to show support for my brother. The promoter was a friend of ours, and I came just to do media. I actually have English major, so I wanted to focus on maybe doing the media, journalism, things of that nature. So I was going to go watch a show, review it, and work on that aspect. But they had asked me literally about 20 minutes before bell, hey, can you referee? And I was like, well, that's quite the question. So they knew that I knew that at least the basics of wrestling, having trained and at least learned the fundamentals, watched it, being a fan of it. But in any case, I jumped at the opportunity as an opportunistic person, something I've realized in wrestling you really need to be. I jumped at it, and on my first night, I got to officiate and work with people like Eric Young, who I'm actually going to see at Creator Pro next month, which is freaking awesome. On my first night, which was huge. So to be able to work with those kinds of that magnitude of performer right off the bat was exceptional. I mean, it was. I wish we can get a little insert. Maybe I'll send you a photo of my embarrassing first start. Let me tell you, I'm not a big guy by any means, but there was no actual ref shirt. So I had to borrow the schools. It was at a school, St. Pat's in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. I had to borrow their soccer referee shirt. So it wasn't even an actual referee shirt. So this is about 10 years ago, all of 115 pounds soaking wet, had to fit into a double XL referee shirt. And
wow.
Let me tell you that even tucked in and tied behind my back still looked like a dress on me. All the no-nos. Had white socks. I had to borrow my brother's wrestling shoes because I didn't have shoes for it. I mean, I had earrings on. I had a necklace on. I mean, I had jeans on. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that first night was something. Probably best we don't show the photo, but all jokes aside, yeah, that was it. That was my first foray into for officiating. So I was very grateful for it, and let me tell you, after that first night, it worked out pretty well. That I was pretty good at the job, and I went immediately got a pair of black slacks, the belt, and I made I had a white belt. I didn't even have a black belt. My goodness, everything wrong with the attire, I nailed it that night at the least. So yeah, that was it. That was the beginning, my humble beginnings.
Hey, it's very cool to get all that stuff out of the way in your very first time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very easy to learn from something like that. But hey, what a better opportunity than to be thrown right into the deep end. And then you probably did how many matches that night?
That night, it was myself and a wrestler, Johnny Knockout's gentleman's name. He was asked to also referee, so I didn't have to ref the whole night myself, thankfully. But I believe I refereed half the show, so it was about 4 or 5 matches.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah,
that is the best. And you fell in love with it, right?
Absolutely. It was something that, thankfully, again, I ended up being pretty good at. And like you said, I fell in love with it, and it was cool too to be able to feel so comfortable being around. Obviously, my brother was there. Actually, I officiated his match. His match on the card, I believe, was against Azrael and Bruno Marciano, I believe the gentleman's name was. It was a triple threat, and my first match was with my brother. So
that's such a cool full circle. Wow.
Yes, for sure. I'm very fortunate to have had that be the opening. I felt a lot more comfortable with that being my first match.
Yeah. I too, like you, my very first match, my brother, I was a wrestler, but my brother was my tag team partner. So I was very fortunate in that, for sure, to have my brother in the ring with me. But as far as the refereeing goes, the first match I ever refereed was for WCW. I'd wrestled for 23 years before I ever refereed a match, and just got the phone call, hey, they want to make you a ref, and that's kind of how it started. And
wow,
I'll never forget. And listen, Stephen, I'm gonna give you a saying that Nick Patrick, I don't know if you know that name, Nick Patrick,
yes,
one of the best refs in the history of the business, bar none. And right before I walked out, I asked him, I said, Nick, do you have anything for me? Any last minute words of advice? And he said, yes, be invisible until it's time to be seen. Well, at that moment in time, I had no idea what he was talking about. I just, okay, I was a nervous wreck. And because although I'd spent 23 years inside the ropes as a wrestler, I'd never refereed a match. And now I'm going to do it, in front of cameras. And I learned later what he meant by that was just being visible. Let the guys do their business. And when it's time to be seen, is like when they go locked up into the corner. Now it's time for the ref to be seen. Break them apart. Go down for a count. Now it's time for the ref to be seen. Over time, the words he said made so much sense to me, and that was, 17 years ago. And I remember him saying it like he's sitting here with me. I mean, those words were just so true. And I have literally passed those words on so many times to so many referees. Just be invisible. Just don't be, you're not part of the show, so don't try to be. I've always said this too, there's no 12-year-old mowing the front yard in the middle of the summer going, hey, Dad, guess what? The referees are in town tonight. Let's buy some tickets. There's not one child has ever said that. So referees, and then in WWE, there was a guy that used to say to me, oh, yeah, refs don't sell tickets. They just give them away. And it was true. It was true because I was always hitting up somebody, hey, can you get me a couple of tickets for my friend? And so, but it's just, keeping that in mind and not trying to become a part of the actual match, just being invisible until it's time to be seen. Man, that's just like the best line in history for anybody that ever has being a ref as something they really want to do. And look,
I appreciate that.
Like I said, I wrestled for 23 years and then finally refereed. If I had known how fun refereeing was, I would have never wrestled, ever. I would have just been a ref my whole life. Look, it's a great feeling inside as a wrestler to have a great match and then get to the point of the 1, 2, 3 and hear that crowd just explode. That's a great feeling. It's a great feeling as a referee to count that 3 and feel that pop. But the injuries and the ups and downs and all the stuff that the wrestlers, look, referees don't get hurt unless they just screw up usually. And so I had a couple of concussions over my career where I went down to count 1, 2, and I was trying to make that tease for the third count really big, and I raised up. One time in WCW, the other wrestler was running in like he was going to make the save, and the tag team partner came from across the ring with a big dive. His knee hit me right in the base of the skull and just knocked me out. Right, it was for WCW on a live event. Just knocked me out. They ended up pulling me out, concussion, the whole 9 yards. Fast forward to Thanksgiving where the 5-on-5 Survivor Series.
Oh, right.
And Sheamus did the same thing and hit me right in the back. And that lives forever because that was the pay-per-view. But look, it was just me trying to overdo what I should have just been doing naturally, but I was trying to really overdo it for the show and the feeling of the fans going 1, 2, oh, and I really wanted to help get that there. I could have just done my job, and not got kicked in the back of the head, but hey, stuff happens, it just does. It's live in the ring, and there's nothing you can do but the best you can. And but how do you like that when you're going to be a part of a match and it's a big match and you get to that 1, 2, oh, and you hear that? Isn't that a great feeling?
Absolutely. It literally sends me thrills. And that's definitely one of those, the aspects of refereeing that I most enjoy, being able to be that little part of something so big,
yes.
Whether it's the count or, throwing out the heel manager or, when we do get those moments, and I completely agree. I remember I was told that those exact similar words, that one of the best compliments you can get as a referee is, I didn't even notice you there. And
yes.
So when we do get those moments where we can count those big epic pinfalls, or again count to get the double count out, or send someone packing from ringside, those moments, man, they definitely, those are my high spots.
Yes, amen.
Yeah,
amen.
For sure. It's exhilarating. It really is.
It is. Yes, it is.
And you don't have to. Think, oh, so you're just counting a 3, or you're just throwing. No, it's way more than
yes.
that. Yeah, and I could imagine, with thousands upon thousands of people, being at the events, it being even bigger or feeling even bigger. So yeah, I mean it's such a cool aspect that people really don't ever. I don't think they really ever really consider, if we really think about entirely of what we end up doing in that role. Right. So, it's really cool to be a part of that.
They could, they could never know. I mean, literally who, the human brain watches the guy that's on offense. You see the guy throwing a drop kick. You don't see the opponent getting his feet right to take the drop kick. You see the human brain watches the guy on offense. That's just the way it is. They're really not paying attention to the referee until it's time to be seen. And that's the only time they really care about the ref. And I can remember, look, with WWE, I refereed for them for a pretty good, about 8 years. And, and we would do live events all through the week and then TVs. And at that time, I did both TVs, SmackDown, and for a while it was just ECW. They did their ECW rebuild or whatever they wanted to call it. And I was just branded with those guys. And then they made me a SmackDown ref. Well, then they said, oh, well, now we're going to make all our refs, they're just referees. And so I did all the shows. And I can remember being on live events and counting 1, 2, and it'd be like a huge crowd, and you hear the whole place just go 1, 2, ah. And I remember coming up to my knees and just looking down at whoever the boys were and saying, are you guys hearing this? Oh my God, y'all got them. And that is just such, those dudes, WWE did not hire me until I was 45 years old. And I never got to work with all these young guys that are, Dolph and those guys that are just tearing the house down. And I never got to work with those guys. So now I've already wrestled 23 years. I've had a great wrestling career. And now I get to referee and be a part of that. And for me, as a wrestler, you don't think it's not even an afterthought about breathing. You just wrestle. What's next? What do I have to do next? And you can blow yourself up really bad in the ring. And so I would literally watch these guys wrestle, and I'm just in the corner with my hands on my knees or watching whatever, and I'm just breathing normally because I've already had a career in the ring. These guys are going as hard as they can, and they've only been in the business 6, 8 years. They're going hard as they can go. And as soon as I could break them apart, I literally would put my hand on their heart and go, okay, let's back it up. Take a breath, take a breath. And I've had so many guys come back to me over the years and go, you're the only ref I ever had that ever told me to breathe. And I said, yeah, it should be something you just think of it on your own, but you don't think of it because you're wrestling. You're trying to think of, what am I doing next? Do I need to close the gap? Should I give him space? He rolled out of the ring. Do I go get it? Your mind's going 100 miles an hour, and there's nobody to try to calm you down or take you off the ledge a little bit. And I would do that all the time. I'll never forget Matt Bloom telling me straight up. I put my hand on his heart and I just started patting his chest. I said, dude, your heartbeat is beating 100 miles an hour. Just back up and take a breath. Let me go get him. So his opponent rolled out of the ring. I went and started the count, and here he came back, and I put my hand back. I said, it's still beating really fast. Just breathe, dude. I got this. I turned back around. After the match, he came to me and said, you're the best ref in the history of the business. I just started laughing, and I said, no, I'm not by any means, but I will get you to repeat that 1,000 times over my career. And I would, any new refs that came into WWE, I'd say, hey, Matt, come over here. Tell him what you said about me. Yeah, I love the business, man. It's the best. It is the best. And reffing is so much fun.
Absolutely.
So cool. Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
To see the connections you two are making, like, already, I love it. It's amazing advice too, Scott. And on that topic of advice, so I've heard you say before you actually got in the business, you referenced it, so you had a long wrestling career before that. And your dad, actually, a legend that your dad is, Bullet Bob Armstrong, didn't want you to go into wrestling. When he finally did come around, if he ever did, if you want to tell that story, do you remember some advice he gave you?
Yeah, yes, I can tell you the advice he gave me as I was literally about to go out for my first match, and Brad was my tag team partner, and I did him the exact same way. I just said, Dad, anything last minute, again, nervous wreck. I was 22 years old, and he literally said, yeah, I got something for you. Go out there, stand on the apron, and watch your brother. I just started laughing.
That's encouraging, right?
Yeah, I just started laughing. He goes, no, really, watch Brad. And I said, okay, well, I mean, anybody that was ever had the opportunity to watch Brad's career knows it's probably the best advice my dad could have ever given me. And anybody to this day that is, wanting to be a baby face and learn footwork and timing, and anybody that wants that could watch any of my brother's matches. He was truly, you can ask any brother I have separately from me, who was the best in-ring wrestling brother you had, and all three of my other two brothers would immediately say, as I would, Brad, by far. He was great, smooth. He could go. And so over time, that's what I did. I stood in the corner and I watched Brad. And then when I got in the ring, I'd want to punch a guy in the corner 15 times. And Brad would scream across the ring, Scotty, he can only sell the last one. In other words, just hit him once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was wasting so much motion. And, even if if he brought a guy to the corner and the guy switched it around on him, Brad would say, just give me a tag and schoolboy him. And those were things I wasn't thinking of because my mind was going 100 miles. I got to do something. I got to do it now, instead of, hey, just relax and perform. And it took a long time to get to that point. But yeah, Brad was just, man, he was, as far as wrestling went, he was the guy I watched. As far as refereeing went, I watched Nick Patrick. I watched the Hebner guy, the Hebners. I watched Kyoto all through his career. I mean, there's right now Eddie Rango. I think that's how you say his last name. Eddie O is what I always.
Oh yes,
he's in my opinion, he is in today. He is the best referee in the industry, in my opinion. I literally had a lot to do with him up and coming. And then once he got there, he would ask me 1,000 questions. And, Stephen, honestly, there are no dumb questions in the wrestling business, because step one, why is the guy going to hit the ropes and come back off? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense already, but people, a lot of times, I have a seminar coming up this week, and a lot of seminars I do, people just sit on their hands. They won't raise their hand and ask a question. And I always tell them, guys, this is the Regal used to always say, it's a bent business. And it is a bent business. It's not straight and narrow. So if it's bent, ask the questions. How can you help bend it some more to make it better? You know what I mean? Anything. I mean, it always amazed me. I would go to these towns and I would watch John Cena sit in the talent viewing area on live events. And he would be sitting in a chair in front of the TV monitor, and he would watch every match. And I would see young guys come up on the card, and I would tell them, hey, there's John Cena. Go over there and ask him, how'd you get here? What did you see in my match? And they would go, oh, I don't want to bother him. And I went, so look, I'm the guy that if I'm sharing a locker room with a multimillionaire, I want to be a multimillionaire too. Yep. Let me go pick this guy's brain. So, Steve, if I could tell you anything, don't ever get the attitude of, well, I just don't want to bother. Dude, Harley Race, I'll never forget being in the locker room with him for the very first time. And my dad said, son, there sits the world champion. You hadn't even gone over and asked him one question. I got right up out of I was intimidated, number one, because I had watched him and worshiped him. You know what I mean? And he was the world champion at the time. And I walked over to him and said, Mr. Race, I'm Scott Armstrong. I'm Bob's oldest son. Do you have anything you can tell me that will help me in my career? I'm just getting started. I've only been wrestling 6 months. And he started smiling and he goes, yeah, start slow and taper off. Well, everybody in the locker room starts laughing. But I was a rookie. I had no idea what he was talking about. But what he literally was talking about was, you don't have to go out there and throw 15 punches in the corner. You can throw one punch and then let the guy tell the world that you have the toughest punch in the world. You know what I mean? I didn't understand that. I felt like there's what I always called the rookie rush. Rookies rush. They just do. They rush everything. Because when I was a rookie, in my mind, I thought that I had to be doing something nonstop in the ring or I looked weak. And nothing could be further from the truth. If I'd have thrown that one good punch and backed away and let Dennis Condrey walk across the ring selling it, well, I'd have the biggest punch in the world. But hitting him 15 times, I've got a pretty weak punch if he can walk out of that corner, right? And so it's just little things that I thought, man, I wish I would have had more questions over the years. And as I got older in the business, then I started asking questions until I guess they'd say, get away from me. I still to this day, look, I'm 62 years old. I have had a little over 40 years and I love this. I do. I think it's great. Right now, I'm the head trainer for Diamond Championship Wrestling out of Mobile, Alabama. And I also am one of the producers on their television show. They have a TV on a major CBS network down here on the coast, and so on the Gulf Coast. And so I have the opportunity to work 2 shows a month with those guys and be their head trainer at their wrestling academy. So, man, I still love giving back. I don't want to be that old wrestler that sits over in the corner and goes, oh my God, these guys today. All right. Yeah, hey man. And how many times have you seen that? And Stephen, in your locker room, I'm sure you have old timers come in and I want to hear a guy like my dad, he passed away at 80 years old. At 79, he's still making towns and saying, no, just tag me in, let me come in and do a few chops and I'll get back out. 79 years old. And so when I hear that, and I know that my dad stayed in the business that long, it makes me understand that he rolled with the punches because all his sons stayed in the business. So he was able to keep his mind open as to how the business was changing. And I remember we'd do Raw or something and or SmackDown, and I'd get a call from my dad right after the show saying, "Man, that was great. Hey, tell so and so that looked really good when he." So my dad was still watching, still critiquing, still into it, and I literally those are the kind of shoes I hope I can step into, because that's how I feel about wrestling. I love it. I love when they try something new or do something crazy, and you go, "Oh man, I wish they hadn't done that." And so I will say this about other wrestling organizations that I've seen, and some of the referees that do try to make it about themselves in the middle of matches. I don't blame that referee for doing so. I blame their boss, because somebody above them lets them do that kind of stuff. And I feel like whoever's letting them do that kind of stuff they really don't 100% understand the picture that's trying to be drawn in the ring. And I know for me personally, if I had taken a big bump off the top rope and legitimately hurt my back, and I look up and the ref's going, "Oh," and I'm doing all this acting while I'm literally hurt, I would have a word with that ref when we got to the back. We would talk about disrespecting somebody legitimately hurt in the ring. And I feel like I know, look, I can't speak for any other organization other than WWE, because that's the one that I refereed with for a long period of time. But we went through concussion protocol classes twice a year. We went through constant with the doctors that we worked with, constantly on signals or hey, if you see this, try this, or hey, look, there's a new protocol, we want to try something new. And that was a constant, because the safety of the performers should be number one, by far, number one. Without those guys, there's no refereeing. The referees can't make a dime if all the wrestlers are hurt. And so it's up to us. If you see a guy that looks like he got his bell wrong, it's okay to step over there and ask him, "Did you get your bell wrong?" And tell the other guy, "Hold on a minute." Because honestly, nobody knows but us, just us. So, Stephen, I hope you're very hands-on when it comes to something like that. And it's just taking care of your crew a lot. Sometimes the boys will get mad at you if you push them back, say, wait, are you sure you're okay? And they may come to the back and go, "Hey man, don't get involved in my match like that." It's okay, get mad at me. I'd rather you be mad at me and I know I did the right thing than you come and get on a guy that I know could possibly have a concussion. Because man, what you really want is all these guys to grow old like me and have grandkids and be able to still walk upright. And that's what's most important in the business, and the most important thing for referees, in my opinion.
I wholeheartedly agree. The safety of the performers, I mean, everything you said is just absolutely it. And yeah, I think, you know, there aren't enough, like I've been very honored now I get to share this with you, and I've been able to pick the brains of some of the top officials in the industry, like yourself, like we're doing now. And not every referee gets that kind of opportunity, excuse me, or even has access to that. I mean, in some places, and kind of what you were mentioning before about the person at the top of the ladder making these kinds of calls. I mean, I've seen in other independent, I'm sure you've seen it too, and in certain other areas where a fan or my friend or such and such person's friend is the official, the referee, and it alarms me that I've heard and seen such things. It's never happened on any shows I've been on, thank God. But yeah, it's a scary thing. You know, you can't have, you're trusting the potential incompetence of someone that is a fan or is a friend in such a role that's so crucial. Like you said, I mean, the safety of the performers is paramount, and that people choose that to go that route so they can save money, or they
Right.
can cut costs in other ways, or they can not have to worry about the referees. It's shocking to me how many places I've heard don't give that role the amount of respect. And again, the respect not only to the referee in the role, but the performers, like you're saying. It's so crazy to me that I've heard in other places that is a thing. And that's why I agree wholeheartedly with you on promoting the safety there. It's paramount.
Yeah, it is sad. And I've told many, look, I've worked a lot of independent promotions. I love the indies. It's the best, man. There's no pressure, and everybody on the card is giving 110% from the first match to the last, because they want to take the next step. And it's just so much fun to be a part of something like that. But I've told so many promoters, hey, a good referee can make a match, but a crappy referee, it can kill the best match you got on the card. And it's sad that a lot of guys, just like you're saying, they want to skimp or save $10 on a referee or whatever. Oh, well, I can give this guy this instead of having to give this. Well, you get what you pay for. I mean, it's pretty much it. And it's funny because WWE, I was over all the referees at NXT and all the referees at NXT UK. And the first thing, any new ones that came in, the first thing I said is, okay, we have a test. And so we just need to go ahead and get you tested before we proceed. And they would say, oh, okay, what do I need to do? I said, can you count to 3?
That's good.
Because you never know what you're getting, you know what I mean? You never know. Look, refereeing, if I had to just learn to referee without wrestling first, I would have been tough. I would have been really tough. So to hear that, Stephen, that you got thrown right in the deep end and you made the most of it, man, that's admirable. Congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And forgive me, my mind gets a little foggy over the years, but it was Alex Reynolds and Jay Santana. Actually, that was the first match I refereed. That was the opener. Okay. And the triple threat was later that day, but I still got to share that moment with my brother being on my very first show. And I believe it was my second match in that case, but my brother was still there. So it still counts. It's all good. I was thinking about it as I was saying it. I'm like, wait a second. But yeah, I just had to make sure I clarify that before I have to go. I'm like, whoops.
And your brother's still going, right? He's still wrestling.
Yeah, God bless. He's training as we speak. Thank you again, Mike Law, because he's training. I'm supposed to be there right now. That's how much of an opportunity this was to me. I was like, I had to, and thank everyone at Battle Club Pro and the Fallout Shelter for allowing me to do this, because this is something that I would never ever pass on. So, huge thanks to them, because Thursday nights we usually do the training. I work with him and just help out on the officiating side of things. And even though I have certainly not wrestled as much as say yourself or him by any means, I've gotten to share the ring with the who's who of people, and I've gotten to experience being around all kinds of excellent performers. So if I can give back, kind of what you were saying before too, if I can give back in any capacity, whether it's from an official standpoint or from a wrestling standpoint or anything related to wrestling, even the other jobs that get really kind of not shunned, rather, that kind of get forgotten about, something as simple as collecting gimmicks or collecting, jackets and whatnot, or ringing the bell. Every piece of this puzzle is so important. And that's why I always make it an effort to make everyone feel involved and look out for everybody, whether it's the bell keeper, the announcer. I always try to get everyone involved. And I also recommend everyone always learning every role. You never know what you're going to be needed to do.
Yes.
So for me to impart all that is always very, very beneficial for everyone. So yes, I train with him, and he's currently doing the training as we speak.
Well, hey, it's funny you would say all that, and I'm going to tell you why. I have a story just like that. I was 22. I'd been wrestling a few months. I'm in the back seat of the car. We're driving to Montgomery, Alabama. My dad's driving. Brad is sitting over in the passenger seat. I'm in the back. And now I've been wrestling a few months, so I know everything. I know everything about everything. Nobody can tell me nothing. And I'm literally in the back seat, and I'm spouting about how I'm going to be the world champion, and I'm going to do this and that. And I guess finally my dad had heard enough. And he goes, son, first, let me just tell you to shut your mouth and listen to what I'm about to tell you. And I'm here to tell you, I remember this vividly, like I'm sitting in that back seat right now. He said, there's only been a handful of world champions in my career, much less yours. And he said, you're 5'11", about $175. Chances are you're never going to be the world champion. He said, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just trying to be real with you. He said, but I will tell you this. If you will learn everybody's position on every show, learn what the guy that helped, learn how to put the ring up, learn what the bell ringer does, learn what the guy at the concession stand, because back then it was a one-stop shop. You know, you brought the circus to town, you set up everything, and then the circus left town. And that's how it was. And so he said, learn what the ticket seller does, learn what the announcer says, learn what everybody does. He mentioned the referee too. He said, and if you learn what every position does, you can have a really long career at this, and you'll have a lot of fun. Well, this is the truth. I learned how to put the ring up. After that conversation, I would get to the building early. If we were like Mobile, Alabama's an hour away, I would drive to Mobile in my own car. And I'd get there early. I'd help put the ring up. I'd talk to the guy that rang the bell and say, how do you know when to do this, that, and the other thing? About 3 years after I started wrestling, I got married. My wife and then I got injured right after that. And so I was out of wrestling, but I didn't want to be out of wrestling. I wanted to still be part of the circus. And so my wife and I literally would sell the tickets. I would set up the concession stand. We would sell the tickets. I would go back, work the concession stand until about 10 minutes before the bell. And then I would announce the entire show. I'd put on a tie and I would announce it in this corner, 230 pounds, I did all that. And then eventually I healed up and I was able to start wrestling again. Fast forward to 45 years old, I'm a referee. Everything my father said to me on that one car ride came to pass in my life. Everything, every word of it came to pass.
That's awesome.
And I told that story. That story was not by me, but by the preacher at my dad's funeral. That my father was a realist. He was very much a realist. If something was BS, he'd call BS on it. But he would make you understand why he felt that way. He didn't just go, oh, that's bull. And I feel like that's kind of how he looked at the wrestling business. You know, some things work, you know, some things don't. And so I was able to listen to him say every bit of that and then put it all through play in my 40 years. And Stephen, it sounds like you already have that foundation. And that is so awesome. And it will take you so far. It really will.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No, dude, thank you for feeling that way.
A large part of for me and for my journey is just surrounding yourself around supportive, positive people. Again, my brother, I can't. I attribute so much of my success and who I am as a person because of our amazing parents and he himself, of course, and just keeping a positive mindset and making sure that that you stay focused, you stay on that goal, and that's how these things have all kind of come together. And I'm super proud of him, and I can't thank him enough for being, again, the reason why I'm involved.
It's funny you said there's an 8-year difference in you guys, and that's exactly what it is between me and Road Dogg. Brian.
Oh, wow.
My youngest.
Oh,
8 years. I'm the oldest of all the Armstrong brothers, and he's the youngest. And it's
that's
that
so
8-year
That's an
difference.
awesome coincidence. Yeah.
wow. I mean, these connections don't get. Oh, this is wild.
It was meant to happen.
It
was meant to happen. This one.
This is destiny. It was meant to be.
Destiny.
Meant to be.
Well, Scott, if I could go to a specific match that you reffed in that illustrious career that you're talking about, it was SummerSlam 2008, and it was a huge match, Hell in a Cell. I think your first Hell in a Cell, Undertaker and Edge.
I was going to ask about this. Sorry.
That's it. No, of
My
course.
apologies.
I mean, I remember growing up watching that match. I think that match taught me what YouTube was actually when I was a kid, because I didn't order the pay-per-view, but insane match with a crazy ending. I'd love to hear how being the third man in the ring for that was.
So, it's funny. You're in the cell and it's kind of Taker's gimmick. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to mess anything up, but I vividly remember, if this is the one I'm thinking about, I held the ladder while he went, and that was more of my focus than anything in the entire match, was holding that ladder. And it was, well, number one, I wanted to hold the ladder and make sure I did it right and nobody got hurt. But the other thing was, how phony does it look for the referee to be holding the ladder, and I was going to be that referee, and I didn't want it to take away from the match. And that got so in my head the day of the match, it was so in my head, and everybody I talked to about it went, oh, nobody's watching you anyway. But you couldn't tell me that enough, because in my head, I was still worried about everybody watching me hold that ladder. Look, Edge is sweetheart of a human being, great performer. Taker at that time, I'd known a little bit, but not, a couple of years, but I hadn't had a ton of his matches because I wasn't that ref yet. And, but then to be asked to do that match was very, look, WrestleManias, you just want to be on the show. It doesn't matter what match you have. If you're in the first match or the main event, you're just happy that you're on a WrestleMania. And at that time, 2008, I started in 2006. So that was like the biggest thing at that time as a referee, like the biggest thing in my career. And so I knew if I screwed it up, then you know what I mean? You screw up something like that, you don't go back to the locker room and everybody goes, hey man, what's wrong with you? And I just didn't want that to happen, man. And plus, in 2008, I guess I was probably 47. So already, at 45, when you get a job in front of the camera, you literally go, why would they hire me at this age in front of the camera? I mean, later on, I was told it was so that I would calm down the young guys in the ring and teach them and talk to them and make them understand when to do what and listen to the crowd. And because, look, referee can definitely, a referee is a director. I don't care what anybody says. A referee is a director of the match. I mean, the guys know what they're doing, but the referee can say, hey, hold up a minute, hold up. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many times I'd say, hey, wipe your mouth, because it'd have slobber all over it. But it's little things. But I just remember that match was, I was just super worried about that, holding that ladder. I wasn't worried about anything else. Everything else I felt like was going to work. I just didn't want to screw anything up, and I didn't want anybody to get, especially Taker, because Taker, look, he was the locker room leader. He was the guy. There's no doubt about it. Anybody that acted up in the locker room, all he had to do, he was like your dad, where you just look over and go, hey man, that's not cool. And everybody just chilled. You know what I mean? It was right. That's the kind of respect that dude had, and deservedly so. Great, a good man, a great. I mean, so good to me and my father and my brothers, and man, I can't say enough good about him. That's how good he was to us.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear, and amazing for him to command that much respect too, right?
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it was just, and it was just a natural thing. Is hey, it's Taker's locker room,
Taker.
and everybody knew it. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so hey, straighten up and fly right.
I don't know if you recall anything specific with that match, but the ending with Edge going through the ring and then the fire coming up through. Did you have any specific responsibilities to that as a ref, or you were just thinking about the ladders,
Yeah,
really, not the fire?
don't stand out. No, don't stand in that one area. That was the my direction is no matter what. When this starts to go down, do not be standing right over there. And that wasn't an issue because as soon as I got in the ring before the match, I immediately walked around the ring and made sure I felt exactly where everything was going to happen. And so, look, WWE is their stunt coordinator was literally I'd known he was Hogan's stunt coordinator in WCW well
Okay.
before I ever went to WWE, and so and he was the type of guy that he would do it early in the day. He went from a ladder through the ring,
Wow.
and so oh yeah, no,
Oh.
this dude, he would not ask anybody to do anything that he put together that he wouldn't do himself, and so. I had 100% trust in this guy no matter what. The thing is, when we go live, he's not the one doing it. So the human factor comes in of Edge doing it instead of this guy. And so that's always what you worry about. When the guy puts it together and then he does it, it's just him. He puts it together and then he does his own deal. Now you're including a referee in the ring, you're including Undertaker in the ring, and Edge has to do it. Well, there's three more human beings involved in what one human being has to do. So it's all timing, right? Everybody's got to be in the right place at the right time. And anytime we did anything like that, I was always worried, for everybody in the ring, but I didn't want to be the one to screw anything like that up either. And look, it's such a top-notch organization, and when I see other organizations start to do stuff like that and it gets all messed up, I always think, I'm sure they talked about it all day, and I'm sure they planned it all day, but did somebody actually do it to make sure nobody would get hurt? And that's the look. It's sports entertainment. It's not real. If it was all real, I would be the guy still selling popcorn. I would not be the guy putting his body on the line, whether it be a referee or a wrestler. But look, it was a big deal, and look, it helped make Edge's career as a single wrestler, in my opinion. Taker was the man, and so anybody that wrestled him got that rub, man, no matter what. And Edge had a great run with Christian as a tag, and man, this really cemented Edge as a top guy, top money draw. And then he had a great run as world champion too. So, and I was able to referee a lot. So maybe I should ask you, Steven, if you ever had any of the boys go, hey, give me a drop kick, or hey, throw me over the top rope, or anything like that?
I have actually done my share of very silly, out of character moments. Well, as a referee at least, and I remember it was Johnny Silver, a good near dear friend of mine. I love Johnny Boy. Johnny Silver was it was at a Beyond Wrestling show. And it was, if I recall correctly, he was wrestling Jake Atlas, and Jake did his cartwheel. DDT was his finish, and they were teasing cartwheels during the match. And so at Beyond Wrestling, they have the fans kind of tight to the ring, so it's kind of they're right there. There's no guardrails or anything, so they're right slapping hands on the mat, which is a bit different and pretty cool in its own way. But that said, I'll never forget this. John did his, I believe Jake did his cartwheel first. John did a cartwheel, and then like just because it went in succession, the crowd started going like Steve, and then like John and Jake looked at each other, and then they look at me, and I'm like, you know, I would never do anything unless it was asked or mentioned. But yeah, John like kind of challenged me to do a cartwheel. He was like, do a cartwheel. I'm like, I'm the ref. I'm the referee. I'm going it down the middle. I'm not doing that. And he's like, and then again, the crowd bit on it. And then next thing I know, he's like, do it. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. I just did a cartwheel during the match. And it came out pretty, I gotta say, you know, not to toot my horn, but it came out pretty nicely. And it may have been better than John's. But yeah, I did a cartwheel during the match.
That's awesome.
That was really
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was so random. I remember I gave Chuck Taylor a hip toss. Like it was just a chaotic tag match that they had, and he like I ended up just giving him a hip toss. I'm trying to remember the exact reason why that ever even happened, but yeah, I gave Chuck Taylor a hip toss as well.
So it's fun, right? It's fun. It's fun because it's something you don't normally do, right?
Oh yeah, it was completely out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's I had a match. It was Edge against Jeff Hardy, and it was for the WWE Championship, and it was a live event, and we had done a DQ finish on the end, and Edge immediately got up and starts poking me in the chest, and I go, "Hey, the match is over, and he starts poking me in the chest and walking me backwards to the ropes, and he said, I'm about to cut you off, and then I'm going to shoot you off, and I want you to reverse it and give me one of those Armstrong drop kicks. And I went, oh, no, dude, no. Because at the time, I'm literally over 45. So I started going, no, dude, I'm not going to do that, man. I'm not. I said, look, his real name's Adam. And I said, Adam, I'm not doing it, man. I'm not going to. Well, he just starts pummeling me and then takes me from the rope and shoots me off. So I just reversed it and gave him a drop kick.
Wow.
He took the bump and went to the floor, and I fired like a baby face, like when I was a baby face. And I cannot tell you the shitstorm that I created, forgive my French, that I created by doing that, because we get to TV. Oh my God. Dean Malenko, one of the best friends I've ever had. He was the producer, and I came back, what are you doing? You just drop kicked the world champion. Oh my God. Scott, I have to put that in the report. Oh my God. Well, we get to TV. First thing, hey, they need to see you in the office, Scott. And so I went and I got you. You know, Edge doesn't get the heat for it. Only the guy that did it, right? He's the money draw, not me. And they let me know that in no uncertain terms. Don't you ever think of doing it. You'll be gone. This is your only warning you're getting. And I just laughed. I went back and told Edge, I said, hey, man, don't ever call that again. So then I would referee him on a live event, and as soon as the match was over, if I counted 3 or whatever, he would immediately start trying to come up and come towards me, and I would just roll to the floor every time. I wasn't about to take that again.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is an amazing story.
You got to protect the champ, right?
Holy moly.
It was fun, man. It was fun, though. I have to admit it was fun, and it got a huge pop. But that's not what we're at. Again, there's no 12-year-old mowing the yard.
Oh my! Wow, that is wild.
Such a cool story.
I'm like processing that all. That's epic.
I know. Those friends that night too got a special show with that. Seriously, Armstrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was fun at the moment, but boy, once I saw how hot Dean was when I got to the back, I realized I may have messed up by doing that.
Steven, for you, something really cool I saw that you were able to do was referee in Hammerstein Ballroom, which is
Oh yes.
awesome. As a fellow New Yorker, that's really, really cool. And I'd love to hear how that was for you. I believe that was that a Ring of Honor show?
Yeah, Manhattan Mayhem in I believe
Yes.
2019. And yeah, I think it's still in my top 3 favorite places to
Nice.
have ever officiated in. I think my other 2 were the ECW arena or 2300 arena, which was awesome. And I think the other place I would say, there's a place called La Boom. Evolve used to be there. House of Glory was there.
Yep, I heard a boom. Yeah.
Long ago. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. I officiated his last match. Well, his last match, and the Briscoe brothers against the main event. That was at La Boom. So those 3 places, in for that reason too, are very near and dear to me. But I'll never forget. I was there at Ring of Honor with Paul Turner, who's the freaking man. Someone that I've learned a lot. I'm very fortunate in my time there, being able to learn from Todd Sinclair and Paul Turner, 2 excellent officials in their own right, and to be able to like Scott's saying, pick their brains, ask questions, and learn TV and learn all these different things you wouldn't necessarily be exposed to on the independent circuit was really, really big for me. So that said, being at the venue hours before I was setting up, and Paul ended up taking me upstairs, which I believe is Manhattan Center, correct? Right? It's Manhattan Center's upstairs, Hammerstein's downstairs.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
So I got to see the setup of the Manhattan Center, which is where all the 90s classic Raws were,
yes,
among other things. So it was really, really freaking cool. So not only did I get to be involved at the
wow,
officiate at the Hammerstein, but I got to see the Manhattan Center as well. So it was really something so special to me, and still, like I said, such an amazing experience. Just being there, and then like ECW One Night Stand was there, and I knew that growing up. To be able to see myself on TV years later while working with everyone there, it's kind of surreal. It's cool. I mean, I also act on the side. I'm in SAG-AFTRA. Nothing major just yet. We're working on the bigger things, but
soon, soon.
Yes,
down the road.
It's coming. I'm very fortunate. I popped up as background work for like Law and Orders and stuff like that.
All right.
Yes, thank you. And that said, the reason why I even bring it up is because my mom and my dad, who, again, amazing people, I came from Puerto Rico and just taught me how to just be so humble and honest and just appreciative of every little bit that you get. My parents literally came from nothing and have, produced a full family of amazing people like myself. But all jokes aside, I'm very appreciative of it. And the reason why I specifically bring it up, and that's why this particular venue has even more endearment to me, is because my mom and dad would take me to auditions when I was younger in the city. So for me to be able to go to New York City and say, yes, I'm here to be a performer at the Hammerstein Ballroom, which is a very illustrious venue in not only just New York City, but the world. It really hit home in that regard. And I know my mom was very happy. And I know she's always looking down, and I know she's always guiding me. Not to deviate, but like I'm a big firm believer in legacy and always being an extension of the amazing person that she is. And if I can give that to others, again, giving back, I can't stress enough, and that I agree so much with Scott in bringing that up. If I can give back, even as something as simple as a smile, any little bit of positivity that I can give back, that's just the way my mom operates, my dad operates, and to be able to continue her legacy by doing these things inside and outside the ring are very, very important to me. So yeah, I'm very, very fortunate for that that event, and it was something that was so special, and I would love to go back. It was it was so cool. Probably one of the bigger crowds I was in front of. I think there was about a little over 1,000, and I officiated Dragon Lee, who's been tearing it up in WWE, which is awesome. It's such a class act. He had wrestled Jonathan Gresham, was another guy I look up to in that regard. Such a talented performer, and to be able to be the guy that was chosen for a match of that magnitude for me was just huge. So just being there, kind of like, it was like WrestleMania for me in that regard. That being involved with that show, because man, I could have just done a pull apart between people, and just being able to be at the show in the stripes and have a reason for it, that would have been sufficient. So, you know, that was kind of my WrestleMania. Hopefully I make my own WrestleMania moments, but in any case, that was the WrestleMania for me. So it was really cool, man. I thank you for asking about that.
Oh, absolutely. Steven, that's an awesome story. No, and I hope you do go back. You will one day, right after the big acting gig. You'll go back to Hammerstein. But
those Law and Orders.
Yeah, those Law and Order. You mentioned WrestleMania, and I want to throw it to Scott now. WrestleMania 27, to be a part of something so special like the streak. You were the referee of Triple H versus the Undertaker, and that was one of a very unique Undertaker match too, because he didn't leave on his feet. He got carted out afterwards, and I was wondering if you remember anything specific about that match, or just what it felt like really to be involved with the streak.
So I've to be a part of any WrestleMania, like I said, is just huge. It's big, but about 2 weeks prior to that show is when I was told that I would be the referee, that they had asked for me to be the referee, Triple H and Undertaker. And so as far as compliments go, it's cool to hear, hey man, you took a good bump, or hey, that was really cool. But to know that the two top guys at the very top of their careers in the biggest match that a multi-million dollar, $billion company was putting on, and I was being asked to be a part of that main event, dude, that was one of those things that you just go home and sit in your chair and go, I can't, how did I get here? You know what I mean? How did I become the person that they are going to trust with this? It was huge. And so then fast forward to the actual show, and right before I'm about to walk out, Shawn Michaels says, hey, Scotty, your first big Mania match? And I said, heck yes, man. And he said, do me one favor. He said, when you get in the ring, they're going to be showing the packages on the big screen of how everything that led to this guy, to Hunter versus the Undertaker. They're going to be showing that whole package. He said, that package is going to be 3 or 4 minutes long. He said, so nobody in the building, he said, you know what's out there. Nobody's going to be paying attention to you. They're all going to be watching that. He said, so when you step in the ring, I want you to go find your corner where you're supposed to be, and then take a deep breath, and then turn in a slow circle and just take it all in, man. He said, because it's really cool. And I said, I was a nervous wreck, needless to say. And I said, oh, okay, thanks, man, thanks. Well, when I got in the ring, I did exactly what he said. And I cherished that moment in my life, because I was able to just take it in and go, wow, man, all the years of wrestling, all the years of growing up with my brothers wrestling in the living room, it all led to this moment in time. And to stand in the middle of a stadium with literally, I don't know what it was, 80,000 people or whatever it was, something crazy, and my wife and my kids in that crowd, and just to take it all in and go, man, my dad used to always say, for the grace of God, go I. And that's the line I thought of as I stood in that ring was, I don't know what I did right in my life to get me here, but I'm so thankful for it. I can't believe it. And everything else just kind of felt like it flowed. Once the bell rings, I mean, you have an earpiece. So when you hear, okay, let's get this started, ring the bell, and you ding, ding, ding. And when that starts, that's when I always felt like I became Scott Armstrong. I didn't feel like I was Scott Armstrong until the bell rang, and that's kind of what happened. Once I became Scott Armstrong, I got into the match and doing my job. And so, two pros like that, all you got to do is, if you don't know what to do by the time you get in that position, you shouldn't be in that position. It's just that simple. And those two guys were so great and so good with me, and taking their time with me. And look, days leading up, TVs leading up to the event. We had 2 weeks of TVs prior, from the time I found out. Mm-hmm. And I would go to each one of the guys separately. Hey, do you want me to do this, or do you want me to be here? Do you want me to be there? And each one of them had the same reaction. They'd smile real big, go, man, you know what you're doing? Relax. But I just didn't want to screw it up. I wanted to make sure that no matter what, they were proud of the job that I did, because, again, a good referee can make a match, or a crappy referee can kill a match. And I didn't want to be the match killer. I wanted it to be great. And look, to me, every time I got in the ring with those guys, that's how I felt. So when Taker was doing the streak, I never really thought about the streak. I didn't. It was, to me, it was something that was the narrative being pushed for television, and I kind of saw it like that. I looked at it as Fit Finley used to always say, "Hey, it's the job, right?" And I'd just start laughing, because he would always say, "Yeah, the cable guy that comes in and hooks up your cable. Do you ever go, hey, remember that one time?" He said, "No, you don't." He said, he just does his job, and then he takes off. And he said, and that's what we do, because Fit Finley's from a long line of wrestler. 4 or 5 generations of wrestlers in his lineage. And so he would always say that, and I'd always laugh, because that's kind of how it was. My dad had done it. Wrestling literally has put food on my table my entire life. From the time I can remember breathing, or being the youngest memories I have, 5 years old, I guess, and so, or 4, whatever. And from that moment on, wrestling's just always put food on the table. And so it's always been the job. And I was just the brother that always said, I want to be a wrestler like my dad. And I said it all through high school. I was skinny as a rail. My dad, I had a whole lot of hair on my head in high school, and my dad would say, "Boy, you look like a toothpick. A Q-tip. You look like a Q-tip. Go get your hair cut." And so I just wanted to be a wrestler. I just wanted to do it. And so it's funny, because once wrestling was done with me, Nick Patrick was one that actually called me and said, "Hey, man, they're talking about bringing you back in as a referee. Would you be interested?" I said, "No, man, I'm a wrestler." I knew that if I said yes to refereeing, it was the end of my wrestling career, because a referee will never be seen as a tough wrestler again, because that's not the referee's job. And so I debated on whether I should take that job or not. And me and my wife literally stayed up all night after that phone call. It was after a Nitro that WCW had done. And so it was like 11:30 at night. And my wife and I stayed up all night talking, because it was a career move. And honestly, the best career move I've ever made. And I refereed for WCW for about 8 months, and then Vince bought them out. So then Vince took 3 referees, and I was not one of them. And the word I got was, "You were too well known from being on the TV show as a wrestler, and he doesn't want to distract from his matches." And that's business. While I was dejected, at the same time, I totally understood business. And I said, "Yep, I get it, no problem." And then 5 years later, here comes Umaga, Eki. Umaga, I was managing a furniture store and working the indies every Friday and Saturday night. And if somebody would use me on a Sunday, I'd work then too. But the furniture store, the owner knew that I was a wrestler, so he would let me off early on Fridays so that I could go make independent bookings. And so, but I managed his store for him. And so one day Umaga walks in the store to buy a recliner for his mom and literally goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh, dude, I'm a normal human being now. I'm home every night doing homework. I'm eating dinner with my family. You know, I've been on the road my whole life, so I hadn't had that opportunity." And he says, "Oh, no, man. There's no Armstrong supposed to do anything other than be in the wrestling business.
Wow.
You got to come work with us at WWE." And I went, "No, dude, thank you. I appreciate it." I mean, again, I was 45. I said, I appreciate it. That part of my life has come and gone, and I'm good. And he said, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that, man. Let me get your number." And I said, "I'll give it to you." And so I gave him my number. And about a month later, he walked back into that furniture store and said, "John Laurinaitis said for you to give him a call. They want you to come be a part of the team and be a referee." And I went, "Dude, no, I'm good." I really begged off. And that night, sitting at the dinner table with my wife and kids, and we all started talking about it. And my wife said, "Look, wrestling has always been your dream, and it would be wrong to not just make that phone call." And I made that phone call, and here we are talking about it. So it worked out to be a really, really good time of my life. It really did. I'm really, really blessed to have been able to walk that path. I was able to go places and do things that, you know, being that normal human being that I was trying to become, I would have never been afforded those opportunities. Dude, we ran Egypt, and I got to literally ride a camel right at the foot of the Egyptian pyramids. Wow. I got to walk. Yeah, I got to walk in in castles in Ireland and Scotland and England, and you just do things that you just go, how did I get here? I really, it's amazing. And WWE, I'm so thankful that that I had that run, man. It was a lot of fun. And the only negatives at all, look, my family got to go to all my WrestleManias that I was able to be a part of. They got to go to all of them, so I'm thankful for that, because my kids were young teenagers, so they got to be teenagers and really enjoy that. And the only negative for me was, like, you're riding a camel at the foot of the Egyptian pyramids, but my wife wasn't there. And this week will be our 37th wedding anniversary. So needless to say, my best. Yeah, congrats. In this business, that's a feat within itself. But it's just not. I was never able to share that kind of stuff with her. It was tough even on WrestleMania week. WrestleMania, what people do is they turn it on Sunday or whatever, and they watch it, and it's over. But for the wrestlers and their families, it's a whole week of business and interviews and promos and meetings, and there's a lot building up to it. So it's, even though you're sharing a room with your family, you're never around your family that week. It's a tough week. It's a tough week period because of the business of it all. Fast forward to being a producer. When I was a producer, 7 years, I guess, maybe 8, that was even more brutal. You'd have to be in the town. You would do Raw and get on. They'd usually have a plane for us, for the whole crew, right after Raw. You get on the plane, fly straight to wherever Mania was going to be on Sunday. And you were there the whole time, and then families are coming in. Look, I wouldn't trade it for nothing, but it's work. It is. It's not just, WrestleMania. It's work. So then add on top of that, you're trying to remember finishes and it's fun, but it's work, no doubt. And Stephen, I truly hope that one day you were able to do exactly what Shawn Michaels told me to do, stand in that ring and just turn in a circle and see the thousands of people and go, wow, this is literally the coolest moment of my life professionally.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. That means the world coming from you. So honestly, wow. Yeah, no, I man, I'm kind of speechless here. Thank
Well,
you
dude,
so
hey,
much.
if it ever happens, all I ask is you give me a call and tell me the story. That's
Yes,
all
sir.
I.
You have it here. It's
That's
on the record.
so
Yes.
cool.
It will be done.
Please.
Yes. No, this interview. Scott, one last specific question for you. With it, we're coming up to the Royal Rumble, and I'm curious. I've always been curious what the role of the referees are during the Rumble, and if you have any specific favorite memories from being out there around the Rumble.
So the very first Rumble I ever did, I want to say, was at Madison Square Garden. I think that's right. And I just remember Cena was number 30. I think, if I have that right.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
That was in 2008, Madison Square Garden. He was number 30. Yeah.
So he came to the ring. Now remember, at this time, I haven't really worked with him a whole lot. And so, but I did know, I did know wrestling and I did know television. I just didn't know what a pro he was. And so he comes out 30. Well, we get to the end of the match, and at the end of the match, and he's the winner, and I'm standing hard camera side. So I know the hard camera is shooting past me. I know I'm not on screen at all. But I'm pointing at him like, hey, go up in the corner. I'm literally overdoing everything up in the corner because I want to make sure he sees me. And I said, go up in the corner, raise your hands, hard camera. And he just smiles real big and starts walking right towards the corner where I am and walks up and goes like this. I just started laughing. I said, "Yeah, just like that." But you got a sold out Madison Square Garden, and everybody's losing their minds, so nobody's paying attention to me, on the floor. It was just a really cool, it really helped me because even after the match, he came and said, "Did you think I wasn't going to get there?" And I said, "Dude, I don't work with you a lot, so I don't know that." I said, "Honestly, I just didn't know you knew." And he started laughing and said, "I didn't know you knew." And we just laughed about it. I got along so great with that dude. His work ethic, second to none. Again, and another one of those guys I can't say enough good about. He worked from eyes open to eyes closed every day. I learned a lot from him about the business. I tried to learn from everybody. It's just like you're saying, Stephen, you keep your eyes open and your ears open and you listen and you know who to listen to and you know who to steer clear of. And I'll never forget the very first day I ever worked for WWE. The late Mickey J, who was a great referee, he met me at the back door and said, "Hey, welcome, man." And I said, "Hey, before we walk in here, who are the jerks, the dudes I don't need to spend any time with, and who are all the really cool people?" And he started smiling. He goes, "Listen, on our ride after the show, let's talk about that and see if you get your question answered during the day." And I said, "Okay, great." And so we get in the car that night, and I said, "Mickey," he asked me, he said, "Hey, so who are the jerks and who are the good guys?" And I said, "Everybody was cool." And he said, "You know why?" And I said, "Nope." And he said, "Everybody's making a lot of money and everybody's doing what they love." And I went, "Wow, makes perfect sense. It's true, right?" And so people like that, you just want to be around. And that's the way it was, man. Everybody, over time you start seeing this guy's this way, this guy's that way, but it never came into the ring with anybody. You know what I mean? Everybody did business. And it's just such a cool place to work. And look, it was run with an iron fist, no doubt about it. VKM was the boss, and you knew it, and he made sure you knew it. But he made me better at my job and made me better at business, and so forever be grateful to him too. Plus, both my kids, college graduates that I probably could not have paid for without the opportunity to work for him. So, very, very, very fortunate and very appreciative.
That is an awesome, awesome way to sum it up. I love it, Scott. And much like you were saying, positive people, just like you were saying, Stephen, just surround yourself with that positive environment, and you'll be successful on your journey. So, Stephen, final question for you. It's been awesome hearing your journey so far. What are some long-term or short-term goals for you as you continue on?
I got into the union a few years ago for SAG-AFTRA. I like to give myself options in general. But I have a few different goals. One of them certainly would be right off the bat is doing something or even being involved in any capacity at Wrestlemania. I mean, that's definite for sure. I mean, I think anyone in this industry, no matter how you pursue it, how serious you end up being or not, I think everybody wants something related to WrestleMania. So something like that would be exceptional in my wrestling career. For my acting career, I mean, I'm taking baby steps here and there. It's a grind, but if I would be able to land a more significant role, maybe a speaking role would be nice. I think I speak eloquently, but
You do.
yeah,
You're a great
I appreciate
speaker.
that. Yeah, thank you. But that said, if I can land a more marquee role outside of Steve the Nurse or Steve Lawyer Steve or nondescript ND Steve, as it is, nondescript is what they refer to it. It would be cool to be something of they call as principal actor. So if I could do something like that, that'd be awesome. Anything of those calibers or anything of that nature rather would be incredible. So that's what I'm working towards. I'm not going to stop. I mean, I'm very fortunate to again have met so many amazing people and this today is certainly adding to that, which I'm super appreciative of. And I know I can do it. I know I can get there, whether it's WrestleMania or landing, like I said, a more marquee role in the acting industry. So those are my goals. We're gonna make it happen.
Can I say one more thing? It's funny you talk about that. In I want to say 2001, I was refereeing for TNA, and my brother was there too, Road Dogg, and so all of a sudden Jeff Jarrett comes to us and says, "Hey, Chris Rock is going to be here tonight. They're filming a movie called Head of State." And he said, "We're gonna do one little scene. Would you want to be a part of it, you and Brian?" And I went, "Yeah, Brian, what do you say?" And he says, "Heck yeah." Well, so that here comes the SAG people, and we fill out all the paperwork. Literally, we ended up in the clip that they show for coming attractions in the theater. We ended up in the clip. Well,
wow.
To this day, I just got a check from SAG for $10 from that scene from 2001. And the first thing I did was take a picture of it and send it to my brother and go, "I'm rich, bitch." So 20 years from now, Stephen, you can get hopefully you can get about half a Happy Meal with
yes.
With your check.
It will be appreciated.
Yeah. That's crazy though, right? 20 years later.
Wild.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take $10 anytime somebody wants to send it to me.
Hey, I agree.
Yeah. Hey, good luck with that, dude. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
For everything, man. It's very cool for me to be, old and grizzled and hear your youthful exuberance about what you do and what I love too. So I appreciate it, man. It's been a pleasure meeting you on this show.
Likewise, thank you so much. I can't stress enough how appreciative I am of your time. Thank you, Jonah, for putting this together. Thank you, Nick Shin, for being the guy that recommended me. He's the man. He was also featured recently as well. Yeah. So
he was on with Mike Chioda, actually, was Nick Shin who was talking about. So it was really cool that we're able to get these ref episodes go. I mean, I think you guys are really like unsung, underappreciated for what you do from just what I've heard from these two past interviews alone. I mean, it's incredible the responsibilities you guys are doing in the ring.
It's a lot. It's a lot. A lot of people think it's just, oh yeah, you just count to 3. Oh no, certainly not the case.
Very true.
Well, that'll do it for the interview portion. I mean, thank you both so much. It's been a pleasure meeting both of you. Seriously.
No, Jonah, thank you, man. Thank you. Thanks for bringing us together. It was awesome.
Yeah,
of course.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Scott, for your time and the knowledge that you got to impart. I mean, I got notes from that, and I'm very happy that I was able to absorb and listen to someone again of your magnitude. It's wild.
Thank you.
In this industry, thank you. You know, in this industry, it's not common by any means for people to get someone like yourself that kind of perspective. And I wish, I hope it becomes more customary that we get to hear from people like yourself and Mike and other top WWE officials and other officials that have clearly, you know, a big say in this industry and have done things, for them to impart it to other referees as well. I think it's very much needed.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Well, look, I'm open anytime. Holler at me.
Rewind, recap, relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary force in wrestling interview.